Hello and welcome to Unleashed. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Diane Flynn, who is multi-talented. She has two books. One is The Upside, Better Outcomes When Everyone Plays. Another book is 50 Questions Inclusive Leaders Ask. She also is the instructor for two very popular courses on Udemy, Growth Mindset and Communicating with Confidence. She's an executive coach, a BCG alum. Diane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Diane, maybe you could give us, before I dive into my questions, give us a bit of an overview of your practice.
Sure. I will give a tiny historical perspective because I think it's relevant to what I do today. I had a career in consulting and then worked with electronic arts for over a decade, had three children, and found that I wanted to and needed to pause my career. My third child was born with some medical issues, and it just I had the good fortune to be able to pause my career. That pause turned into about 16 years. I did keep active during that time with nonprofit boards and whatnot. So I felt like my networks and my skills were maintained. But about a decade ago, at close to 50 years old, I had the opportunity to go back into the workplace full time, and I loved it. I always say I felt like Robert De Niro in The Intern, where he wakes up in the morning and he's so energized to get up and get out of bed and get dressed and go work with a team. And when I did that, I found that it was with a tech company here in Silicon Valley, and I found that there were so many other women at my children's schools that said, I want to do what you just did. But what I kept hearing is I don't feel current with today's technology. I don't feel connected with the professional network, and I have no confidence. And I heard this enough that I thought, I can help these women. I did it. I love to learn. I love to teach, and I love to coach. And so with four other friends, we started a company called Reboot Excel, which I've been running for the last 10 years. And initially, the aim was to get women current, connected, and confident to return to work. We've had thousands of people go through our programs, and we still have resources on our website, coaching, workshops, et cetera, to help women. However, my personal practice has evolved quite a bit. I did that initially, and then I started working with companies, worked with Visa, and found that people in the workplace need a lot of these same leadership skills that women returning to work need. And I really enjoyed the B2B work, working with companies on retainers and longer term contracts. It was a lot easier than trying to, fill seats in our in our programs. And so that has evolved into the work I do today, which is primarily coaching executives, coaching leaders, helping them build more inclusive cultures and workplaces, and also empowering individuals to do their best work.
Amazing. Talk to us a little bit about the work of helping women reboot their careers. Just tell us a little bit about what was the typical client you worked with, and what sort of that process look like for women who are doing that?
What I observed, Will, is that these women were immensely talented. I was president of our parent association at our school. I had 80, mostly women, a couple men, work with me, and they had been successful whatevers in their prior careers, and were taking a career pause. And I would have hired almost any of them to, manage events, manage budgets, run projects. They were reliable, responsible, capable. However, when you talked to them about trying to get back in the workplace, you would hear the biggest confidence crisis you can imagine. They would say things like, I'm just a blank, which is something I say in my communications class. Get that word just out of your vocabulary. It diminishes you and what you're capable of delivering. They wonder who would ever hire them. And I keep thinking, they would be great chief of staff. So there's a lot of things, sales, And the main thing that I would encourage them to do is to reframe their achievements and their skill sets based on what they have done, whether they got a paycheck for it or not. So if they manage the auction at school, they have amazing skills. In fact, I've always found it's harder to motivate and manage volunteers than it is people that are getting a paycheck, because you don't really have any carrots to put out there. But they have run budgets, they have met deadlines, they have managed people, managed teams, they've motivated, they've been creative, they've done so many things. And yet what I find is that a lot of people, if they're not getting a paycheck for what they've done, they dismiss it or discount it. So a lot of it was just reframing it, getting on a resume as a skill that they could bring to a company or a role. And many of these people, I'd say most of them, have landed amazing careers. There's a number of women that have been through our program who are holding significant roles at Stanford University right now, which is in my backyard here. I think organizations like higher education really value that kind of experience, that pattern recognition, and just a little, wisdom and maturity that they bring to the table.
Where can employers go if they're looking to tap into that talent market? If you're trying to hire someone who's rebooting their career, how do you make it clear that you're open to hiring someone like that? And is there any great websites other than just posting something on LinkedIn? Is there ways to tap into that talent pool?
Absolutely. The company I would send them to, and I work very closely with Carol Cohen, who founded iRelaunch. They work with companies. They started with McKinsey and JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and now they have lots and lots of companies that offer a program called a returnship. So think internship for someone who's returning to their career, not necessarily returning to one of these companies, but returning to their career.
Got it.
So what these are, just like an internship that maybe one of our kids would have out of college, it's about usually 3 months. And think of it as a try before you buy program where both the employer and the returner have a chance to onboard and check each other out. They get a little extra, I'll call it hand-holding, mentorship, especially. I know when I went back into the workforce, I wasn't even familiar that my calendar could be shared with everybody, because when I exited the workforce, that was not a capability. Now we have AI. I think there's a lot of people that probably aren't familiar with how to use that in your roles. And I use it daily, by the way. So they might get a little extra mentorship around some of the latest, workplace technologies and ways to navigate the culture that they'd be working in. Typically, I think it's about 80% or higher of the women who go through these returnships are hired into full-time roles. So I would check out their website, irelaunch.com. I think they're doing some of the best work around this area.
Great. I'd like to turn to just one of your side gigs that I'm fascinated with, which is you are an instructor at Modern Elder Academy. And this is a website that I've followed for a while. Tell us a little bit about what is Modern Elder Academy and what's the course that you teach there?
Sure. So Chip Conley founded Modern Elder Academy. We overlapped in graduate school. And so I've known him for lots and lots of years, and I've always been impressed with his work. He was a hotelier by trade, had a very successful boutique hotel chain for about 25 years, sold it, then has been advising Brian Chesky at Airbnb. And when he was at Airbnb, he tells this story. He was 52, and he said the average age of the engineers he would work with were probably like 28. And they started calling him an elder. And at first he resisted it. He didn't want to be the elder. But then they said, no, Chip, you are a modern elder. And he started to adopt that identity of being a modern elder and really relishing all the positives that come with that. The wisdom, the experience, the pattern recognition, the mentorship. And so he started his new, I guess, what would you call it? A kind of a resort community, a high-end resort community. The first one is in Cabo. That's where I've been for the last 5 years. He's opening one this year in Santa Fe, and he calls it the Modern Elder Academy. And his tagline is the first midlife wisdom school. And we are very much aligned in terms of how can you stay relevant and purposeful and motivated and energized in, quote, midlife? And midlife, people always ask, what's the age of midlife? It's whatever you want to define it as. It's when you have that maybe confidence crisis or that life transition, or that time when, maybe you want to find something different to do, but you're a little bit afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And so the week-long course that I have always delivered is a women-focused course on finding your purpose and passion. And the people who come to our week are typically 45 to 70-ish. Well, we've had older and we've had younger. We had a 35-year-old when I was there a few months ago. And so it really is not important what the age range is as much as what the mindset is of the person attending. And we do a lot of different coaching techniques to help people identify their strengths, what sparks joy, what drains them, what impact they want to have, who they want to work with. Probably the most important thing that I always start with when I coach people is their core non-negotiable values. Because I have found over and over that if your values are not aligned with your work, you will never find fulfillment in your job, true fulfillment. And so that's one of the first exercises we do. But we do a whole bunch of different exercises, and then there's a lot of one-on-one coaching throughout the week. We have meals together. It's a very fun experience. And what the participants, I think, really value is the community that's developed through this experience. And Chip has created a very strong alumni program. I have thousands and thousands of people. I can't remember exactly how many, but they come back for reunions, and the cohort I was just with is still meeting once a month to support each other and give each other assistance. Chip, by the way, is launching right now his newest book, Learning to Love Midlife, and it's 12 Reasons Why Life Gets Better with Age. There's a little couple pages about my story in the book, so I'm grateful to Chip for sharing the word of how people can really. I hope to model that. I'm now 61 as of last week, and I think I'm living my very best career life. I feel incredibly fortunate and energized, and I'm just having a really fun time. And then the other thing is I'm an empty nester. I have 3 children. They all live in Austin now. I have plenty of time to really dedicate to my work, which is another reason I think companies should think about this demographic, because I'm much more focused and engaged than I was when I had 3 toddlers at home, for instance. So there's lots of reasons companies should think about this talent pool as they're seeking the best talent out there.
What are some outcomes from this week? So can you give us some examples of a participant that found her purpose and passion and decided to go off on a new career trajectory? Or
Absolutely. There are so many. Somebody asked me last week to send her. She's been a corporate executive for years, and she wants to become a coach. So I sent her your materials for Umbrex. And there is one that stands out. There was a younger woman in her mid-30s who has always been an instructor and a writer and an author. And she felt that this was not meeting her needs for impact. And she walked away at the end of the week deciding that she was going to start a new type of university. And she had already started calling some people who could help fund it, some people who could help her develop it, a board of advisors we were brainstorming for her. So that was really exciting. But there are people, a lot of people are going through a transition, maybe a divorce, maybe they're widowed, maybe they're making a move geographically, or they're really unhappy in what they're doing. And I always say, take time to pause, to reflect on what it is you can bring into the world and what impact you want to have, because there's no benefit to anyone in staying in a role that is soul sucking, unless it's well paying and you need the finances, then, that's justified. But there's a lot of people who just aren't happy in general. And so it's a chance to, reboot your goals and motivations and think outside the box and explore some opportunities that perhaps, never came up in your radar.
For people that want to try this at home and work on finding their purpose and passion, could you go in a bit more detail about some of these exercises that you walk people through? Let's spend 10 minutes or so on this of, what would you assign someone if they're going to do it at a distance on their own? How can someone get started?
Sure. And I have this on my website. I'm happy to give people the link. It's a 2-page, I call it a personal inventory. And I always encourage people to start here. What it is, when I went back to my business school reunion 12 years ago, I met with a coach and they gave me a great book, but it was about 156 pages of exercises and thought questions, many of which I did, but I find most people can hardly do 2 pages. So what I did for my own benefit is I synthesized it down to what were the key questions that really spoke to me and helped me the most. So these are 2 pages of questions. Every time I coach someone, I send it to them and I say, fill this out and then let's set up time to talk. Again, I'm happy to make it available. It's openly available on my website. So it starts with what fills your tank. And that could be anything from, being part of a team, for instance, is something that I love. Collaborating, project management, organizing, even, working from home, working from beautiful spaces, a good cup of coffee, anything at all that fills your tank. And then what drains you? And my gosh, I have a long list of that. But, too much to do, working with people I don't respect, whatever that is, anything, too much conflict. Anything that drains you, throw it in there. Then we've got the non-negotiable values that I already mentioned. Then we have my strengths, so things I'm particularly good at, areas that I would like to develop. Maybe I want to be an executive coach, but I don't have the tools or the skills yet. And so I might want to take a course or sign up for a program. Then we have, what do friends think you do well? And that's a really interesting one that maybe sounds like a throwaway, but I probably learned more from that one than any of the rest, because I asked my friends, I said, what do you think I do well? And what I didn't appreciate is they said, when we go away on our women's weekends, you're always holding Apple tip classes for us, like helping us optimize how we use our iPhones or software or Canva or whatever it is. And I realized that probably if you had to summarize my passion, it is learning and teaching. I love to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. And then I love to share what I've learned and help make other people better, more energized, more productive, enjoy life more. And it's as simple as what I love to do. And that is what I do for a living now. And that's what I did when I started Reboot, was learn what people need to know and teach them what I think they need to know.
All right. So to clarify on this one, this is not just sort of hypothesize about it, like what are your strengths? What do you think your friends? But you're saying actually go out to your friends and say, hey, I'm doing this exercise. And I know it sounds silly, but one of the things is ask your friends what you think you do well. So please tell me what do I do well? I mean, it's something like that. You actually ask your friends.
Absolutely. Here's another one. I always hated public speaking. Hated it. I got so nervous. I really didn't like it. People, after I was president of the Parent Association and I had to do a lot of it, people would say, wow, you're really good at that. You really are comfortable up there. I didn't believe it in myself, but hearing it from other people started to give me confidence. I thought, maybe I'm missing, maybe I have a blind spot. And that is why this exercise is so valuable. And now, honestly, Will, I love public speaking. And it's not because it's about me, it's because I have a message I want to deliver. And I feel like doing it publicly is one way to hit the most people with it. So, I always tell people who are nervous, get out of yourself and get into your message. What is it you're trying to offer your audience? And when you focus on that, it usually the nerves dissolve. But that's why this exercise is important, is sometimes we miss our own strengths.
Yeah, no, I love the exercise. You might get less honest answers if you ask the reverse. It's like, ask your friends, what do you think you need to improve on or something? But maybe.
Yeah. Sometimes what I tell people, because most people shy away from conflict. And when I coach people in the workplace around getting feedback, because one of the courses, as you mentioned, I offer is one on a growth mindset. You really do need to embrace feedback if you want to grow. And so I always tell people, instead of saying, is there anything I could improve on? Say, hey, Will, I'd love to hear a couple things you think I do well. And tell me one or two things you think would make me more effective in my job. Because if I ask you specifically for one or two things, you will think of them. But if I say, is there anything? That is a closed-ended question that can be easily answered with, no, you're doing great, which is the way most people get away with it. So you will never grow. We do feedback forms after every single workshop or new program that we deliver, because we are always trying to learn and improve as a team. And so I take that to heart, getting feedback.
Okay, so I love these. So I'll recap. So far, we got what fills your tank, what drains you, what are your non-negotiables, what are your strengths, what would you like to develop in, what do your friends think you do well, and then I interrupted you. So what are the other exercises?
Yeah, there's a few more, and I may not tick them all. I'm doing them from memory. One is, what impact do you want to have? Most people are much happier in their job when they feel like there is some greater purpose to what they're doing. I mean, even, if you're cleaning hospital rooms, but you feel like you are helping people live healthier lives and saving lives, that is awesome. So thinking about the purpose. And then there's a section on how much do you want to work, very tactically. Maybe I want to work half time. Maybe I want to work 80%. Where do you want to work? For me, at my age and with 3 kids and now a grandchild in Austin, I want flexibility. That is a huge value for me. I love working from home. I feel highly motivated. I don't feel, that is a detriment. So thinking through those logistical things. And then the other one I love, and I'm going to spend a minute on this, is having a North Star or a mantra that guides you. And I developed mine 10 years ago, and it has hardly changed, if at all, since. And I'm happy to share it if it helps anyone else.
Yes, absolutely. What's your mantra?
Yeah, so it's a synthesis of everything I learned from doing this exercise. And by the way, this is not a 10-minute exercise. I tell people, take at least 2 hours and then continually reflect on it. It's going to change over time. And I say, you have seasons of life. When I had no kids and then empty nester, everything changes each time your season changes. But anyway, my mantra right now is to engage in creative collaboration with people I respect, to change lives and build community. So it has to be creative. I just need to feel creative every day, and I do lots of things to do that. Collaborative, I think we're better together, and I know that I don't have all the answers, but I love working with people who bring creative ideas to the table. So that's collaboration. People I respect. I've worked in my life with people I don't respect, and it really drains me. I won't do it anymore. And then why do I do it? It is to change lives. That's all the coaching and leadership work I do. And building community is something I've realized I love doing. I love, in our Reboot community, we bring people together who, have similar interests, and and they really support each other. In the leadership coaching work I do, we always do group coaching and we build community through the groups there. When I get asked to do something pro bono, I run it through that filter. And I think if it hits all those boxes, I just did something in my faith-based community at the Stanford Business School last week because it hit all the boxes. I find that really meaningful. And I think if you can come up with a mantra that works for you, or whatever you want to call it, a short descriptor, it can be the filter through which every opportunity, whether it's paid or unpaid, can travel. And it's a very easy way to help you say yes or no to opportunities. So that's about, the last thing on the list, on the personal inventory that's coming to mind is, what's your next steps? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? What are you going to do this week? You know, if it's a big thing, like I need to get accredited in coaching, what are you going to do this week? I'm going to look at programs. Next week, I'm going to sign up for one. Then I'm going to, I just went through an excellent one through the Center for Executive Coaching, and I did it. It's all online, and I thought I'm going to do this in 6 weeks. It was around the holidays, and I just went on a lot of walks and listened to this coaching program for executives, and I probably did about an hour and a half a day at 1.5 speed, and I got through the whole program. So that's an example, though, of having a very concrete goal, putting timelines on it, and then making sure that you've put the discipline together to make it happen.
So once someone has done these different kind of inventories or reflective exercises or asking your friends for feedback, so you gather all this insight or data, what are your advice to kind of, what's the alchemistry that helps you go from that to finding your purpose and passion, or figuring out, okay, what's my career move? Should I move across the country? Should I start a new job? Should I go back to school? Like, how do you make it seems like a big leap, right?
Well, there are plenty of options. You could find a friend, an accountability partner who could reflect on, in fact, when we do this in groups, in larger groups, I pair people up and say, read them some of the highlights from your 2 pages. And use third level listening, which is watching for body language, watch for excitement. I coached one woman who did this exercise, and she said, well, I guess I could go back into law. And I looked at her and said, you are not going back into law. Everything about your body language looks like you absolutely hate legal profession. Do not do that. So sometimes just having an accountability partner watch how you respond to things can be helpful. You could hire a coach. That's there's tons of coaches out there that could help you navigate this. You could go to, there's workshops. Our team offers workshops from time to time. The Reboot Excel team does that. You could, all right, what I love is something called Ikigai, Ikigai. And it is Japanese, and I'm trying to remember exactly do you remember what it stands for?
I'm familiar with the concept. It's sort
of like finding that perfect, fulfilling spot in your life. And I'll just describe. It's 4 circles. It's a Venn diagram. So this is how I think about my own career, and I found this to be incredibly insightful. 1 is your gifts or talents, 1 circle. The second circle is your passions. And we've already done this on the personal inventory, so you should have these by now if you've done the exercise. The third is what the world needs. And the fourth is, and this assumes that you want to make money doing it, but what the world will pay for. If you're at a point in life where money is not the important, then you just take that circle off. But the idea is that if you get to the middle of this Venn diagram, you are doing things you're passionate about, you're gifted at, the world needs, and the world will pay for, then you have probably found, that ultimate satisfaction. I love this. I found that in the early years of doing the Reboot program, I was working full time at the same time in a different capacity, but we were offering this program and we had to, sell butts in seats, and it was a lot of work. And what I found is it was hitting three of the four boxes. I was passionate about it. The world needed it. I thought I was, decent at it, but it was really hard to get paid to do it, and at one point we were in 7 different cities because so many people loved this mission of helping, women reboot careers. And so I had 7 cities of people running this program. At the end of the day, though, it was a lot of work for everyone and no one was really making a living doing it. So that was partly why I decided working with companies is a much better business model in terms of meeting that fourth box, or fourth circle, which is the what will people pay for? Because companies have a lot more money to put into programs like this than, and we have companies that are in their 7th iteration of the leadership program that I offer. So, when you get the flywheel going, it's a much easier way to make a living than, selling it to new people every time you offer the program. So anyway, that Ikigai diagram I find very helpful if you just want to take the inputs that you've developed through the personal inventory exercise and then put them into something that could translate into a career. Does that help, Will, or do you still feel like?
No, that's helpful. That's helpful. I'd like to talk a bit about one of your courses on Udemy, which is Growth Mindset, the key to confidence, impact, and fulfillment. Tell us a bit about, that course and what are some of the key exercises you have people do in that course?
Sure. About 3 years ago, I guess, right before the pandemic, Udemy reached out. They had heard me speak at an event about growth mindset, which is Carol Dweck's body of work at Stanford. I want to make sure she gets credit. She has been doing this work for decades, and there's lots and lots of books about the growth mindset if you want to check those out. They asked me if I would do a course because they felt that there was a need for a course on this in their course, whatever inventory. And so I said, sure. And they said, yeah, you never know how many people are going to watch or whatever. Well, anyway, this week I will have hit my 60,000th student worldwide. And the reason I think that's so interesting is not only because it shows how powerful the Udemy platform is, but it shows how many people are desperate for changing their mindset. And it's really about getting out of your comfort zone. A fixed mindset is playing it safe, not taking risks, not asking for feedback, not worrying about, failing. And a growth mindset is that kind of uncomfortable space that we have to step into to really make great things happen. That, for me, every good thing that's happened in my life has really come when I've stepped out of my comfort zone. And so what I go through in the course is 6, what is a growth mindset? What does it look like? What does it look like in a person? What does it look like in an organization? Because organizations have mindsets as well. Some organizations limit growth because they don't invest in their people. They punish failure. They fire people when they don't succeed, at trying a noble experiment. They're not feedback organizations. They don't help people grow. So those are, there's a whole bunch of things that define a fixed mindset organization. But then I go into the 6 roadblocks that I've seen through my coaching that hold people back from having a growth mindset. And what I encourage people to do is reflect on which of these are speaking to them. And some people say all 6, and that's fine. You have to start somewhere. But then I have a bunch of strategies for each one on how to address it. So the 6 are fear, lacking confidence. That's often called imposter syndrome. Most of us have that, if not everyone. I think it's universal at some point. One is fear of failure. A third is fear of success, which can actually hold us back. A fourth is perfectionism. So many times I have friends who really want to try something, but they won't do it until they know they can do it perfectly. I have never done anything perfectly the first time I've done it. So getting over that and just, in design thinking, we call it rapid prototyping, stepping out and trying some new things and then learning from it is how one can get around perfectionism. The fifth one is inertia. And that is like the people I coach that have wonderful task lists. They want to write a book, they want to take a course, they want to do this, but nothing ever gets done. So I call that inertia. And the last one I identify is just not knowing what to do, being stuck. So really having no clue. And that's where the personal inventory can really help people get unstuck. Because if you can start to tap into that which sparks joy, that is the best way to find a meaningful something to do. And not every joyful hobby or interest can turn into a job. But hey, I have friends who are professional organizers. They have always found joy in organizing, and now they do it for other people as a very successful career. So starting with what sparks joy can really help create some new ideas and opportunities. So that's what the mindset course is about. And I'm about to, give it out for free for a month as a thank you to hating so many students. So I'm happy to give you that link as well, Will.
Fantastic. We will include those links in the show notes that you'll send over, including the link to your website, which one of your websites is Diane-Flynn.com. That's DIANE-FLYNN.com. So we'll include that as well as any other links you want to send over. Diane, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you, Will. I really appreciate all you do for this community and look forward to staying in touch.